Hi, I am a little bit sweaty, a little bit excited though, to finally talk to some people about community management because just like you, I used to study game programming and thought that was the only thing you could do to go into this industry, which it turns out it is not. So first off, who am I even? I'm Nat, you can just call me that. I'm currently the communications and community person for the Godot Foundation. I already see a plushie in the room, very much approved. I've been in the games industry since 2020. That is not all working for companies, a bunch of freelancing, volunteering. We'll get into that later because there is some things that I would like to pass on. And as you can see, I'm always normally situated in Munich, which means that the trains here were okay. And the casual content creator thingy, well, if I have time, and that is the problem that many of us industry professionals have, I do stuff in my free time. I try to stream to just get more comfortable in front of the camera and that kind of stuff. But, you know, work takes priority. So casual it is. And if you're wondering about that image, it's one of those things that just was currently trending on LinkedIn where everyone was using AI to create action figures. And I was just like, how about no? We're just going to do this ourselves. And this actually has a purpose because one of the things I want you to do after this is network. And this should make it a bit easier to talk to me. Just pick one of the items, remember it, and talk to me about it later. But yeah, the key takeaways today. What is and isn't community management? Very easy, but very necessary because depending on who you ask, you get a different answer. Then, how can you become a community manager? How did I get here? How do other people do this? And lately, we are going to do some quick lessons for everyone. Things you can do if you can't hire a community manager because, you know, one-person teams and all that stuff. But things that I have often seen even indie devs not do, even though they would be easy. So with that, I hope you're ready. And, well, I'll give you some time to take this in. Depending on who you ask, you'll get a different answer on what community management is. So my colleagues think I constantly tell them not to tweet, which, yes, but it's not the only thing I do. Same thing with constantly being on my phone or, you know, banning players or apologizing for company mishaps. All these things do happen, but they're not the only thing that is happening, and it's definitely not the main thing that a community manager should be doing. So I looked up two different definitions, and I found them quite interesting. Because if you look at the traditional dictionary, it will just tell you it's the job of making sure that a brand has a positive image and good relationships with its customers and followers on social media specifically to stay ahead on the curve. So what we're taking away is a brand image, the relations part, and social media, which I added a question mark because that's not always true. Then if we're looking at buffer.com, which is a social media scheduling website, so someone that knows a little bit more about what they're actually talking about, they say that it can be summed up as the collective activity of creating an inclusive community for different forms of mostly interaction with consumers, staffs, and any other person inside of a company. So again, community building at the center, engagement, and external and internal communications, which I found interesting. Still, I wasn't too happy with all these. So what is it in my personal opinion? Honestly, I often describe myself as a telephone because I am the person between the player and the developers. Or in the case of our org, the people making the engine and the people using the engine. So you always are between those two groups of people and you're trying to make the communication easier. How do you do that? You collect feedback, but also, most importantly, you distill that because the amounts of feedback that land on my desk, if I gave them to the devs, they would get nothing else done. Same way with the developers having dozens of updates they would like to share, but which ones of those are important for the community? So you actually have to do that filtering for them. Now, the other thing that often isn't, most often is included is moderation of online spaces. That can be setting up a Discord, maintaining it, or adapting when a new platform comes out. However, you also have to enforce the rules, which is the point where people are assuming that you're always banning people, which, yes, but there's a reason for that, and I'll come to that later as well. Interestingly enough, though, this is the part where a lot of volunteers often get involved and which is the potential entryway into this job. I don't want to say you have to do free work to become a community manager, but it's what a lot of people do first. So normally, this is where you find like-minded people. Another thing that you do is try to make sure that these servers are not dead. So you try to engage them, you try to come in there, try to start conversations, all of these kind of things. And then often, but not always, marketing tasks are included. So social media posts would be one of those, but I've seen multiple community management positions where either social media is a different team, social media is done by PR. It's not always a thing you get to do. So I kind of wanted to make sure that that definition from earlier is like not the most accurate thing. Creator outreach could be one of those things as well. Again, influencer management is a full job on its own, but sometimes, especially in smaller teams, you do get to be that person, inviting them on the server, making sure they have like little meetings with the devs where they get some special info, that kind of stuff. So now that we know what it is, I found this image, and my goodness, I know it's a little bit blown up, but you just need to see how much is on there. And sadly, I can report that I have done almost all of these in the past at different companies, most of them at the current one even. This is not how it should be, right? Community managers are often sold as a jack of all trades. And the reason I'm showing you this is to make sure that if you ever apply anywhere, please read the job description, because sometimes a community manager can be, for some reason, just the internal communications department and doesn't get to engage with the outside. And you need to make sure that your skills, wherever they are on this chart, are aligning with that. And also don't get dragged into all of these things. This is multiple full-time jobs. This is not sustainable. But it is often a thing. So how does one become a community manager? I found that meme when I looked up community manager meme. I was like, okay, classics. You have to have some humor. That's the point of this. Because most of the time, there is not one perfect way to become a person that does this. There are different study courses you can take that normally are like, if you look at all the community managers, that's what they usually have studied. It could be marketing, psychology, media studies like you guys. But there's also people like me that have studied programming and then just started volunteering, got into content creation, took on internships. There's so many different ways to get into there. And one of them is related to the image we saw before, which is internal transfers. Sometimes community management gets tagged on to a different job. Like I've seen artists being told like, oh, you can do the community on the side. And again, not ideal, but I wanted to be honest about how often like people realize that this is something they could do. With me, at the very least, I found out that like in our project management, I always ended up being the person making sure that everything is organized and we actually do some like marketing or any kind of thing. So like I found it out the natural way. I also met community managers at my first DevCon where I was a volunteer. So like it really, the moment you realize that this is a job you can do and you want to do it, there's multiple ways for you to do so. The important thing with all of them, though, is that you're ready to teach yourself. Because even if you have a study course, even if you have like an internal thing where someone tells you just do it and learn on the go, there is no real definition of the job and there is no real toolkit of the job. So you're going to have to teach yourself the new platforms. You're going to have to be curious and talking to people that already do this job and learn from each other. And if that's not something you like to do, then maybe this isn't something for you. That being said, whatever you do, please keep track of it. Like there are so many applications that like require you to have a portfolio. And yeah, for an artist, that makes sense. For someone who manages social media or like does community management, you rarely ever ask for feedback or like reviews. So try to make sure that everything you do, you keep track of somehow. Like this Discord server grew from this number to this number. Anything you can sell later on is going to be valuable in this regard. And something that goes in all my presentations, no matter what they're about, networking. Because honestly, most of the time, you will find someone that needs a person for this position and they're willing to train them. So even if you don't come in with the proper skill set, if you have a degree that kind of tells you enough about PR, that you could be trained on anything else, but you don't get to that person that needs this, like someone in this position that wants to hire someone, you're not going to get there either. So networking is always important. And even if you talk to someone at a conference who's doing something completely different, something you've never been planning to do, still keep that contact. You never know what it's going to be good for. Like back when I was volunteering there and talking to those community managers, I was still insistent on becoming a programmer. Turns out that was a good talk to attend anyways. And in terms of there is no material out there, there is some material. And instead of giving you a whole list of all the different materials that are constantly changing, this person is absolutely the best to look up. Victoria Tran, you might know her as the community manager for Among Us. She's also a staple in the community management scene. So she does a newsletter where she even has tests in there to like see if you understood what she taught you. So this would be a good starting point. She even has an article like how to become a community manager. It's way longer than anything I could squeeze into a presentation. So I just wanted to plug her at this point. There we go. Lessons for everyone. Now this is the part where even if you know where this is from? I see you laughing, Patrick. This is from r/Godot. This is just right at home, where people are thinking of creating a game, they're doing it, bug fixes, I'm gonna release it, and it's like, wait, now how do I get the players? And if there's one thing I can tell people, please start early. Like, it's one of those things where marketing does influence everything. And I mean it. It can be things like design choices. If you have early feedback on a design not working out with the community, that is something you wouldn't realize if you didn't show that to people first. It can help you with bug fixing as well. It can also, honestly, sometimes allow you to change the game in ways that you can't expect, which will be on one of these slides in a second. But also, honestly, starting early can mean grabbing the handles before you have trouble getting them later. Honestly, when I started at Godot, this company has been existing for a long time. I had trouble getting our engine handles on all the different social medias because someone else grabbed them already. So even if you don't plan on posting anywhere, just make sure when you have a game, you have the game name, you have the studio name, claim them everywhere, put them on a spreadsheet. I don't care, just keep them because later on it will be very hard to find them. And then there's the other thing of building for growth, right? Like you can open a Discord server, it can be very small, but at least you already have it. Right? You're already building that funnel that for when you actually get into marketing the game, you can then build upon something that's already there rather than start from scratch when like everything else is going on. Like during the release of a game is the worst time to start planning for anything. Now, the other thing that I do have to tell indie devs, pick your battles. There is an advantage of like doing one active channel over like many that just repost the same thing and like don't engage. So try to go for the ones that like make sense to you, that is something that you feel comfortable with posting, but also something that you can keep up because consistency is almost more important than quantity. And the same way, the quality of what you do matters. But it's a thing where your community will realize that like it's a solo dev, it's a team with like a small community manager. They are ready for that, right? Like no one needs 24/7 like content from absolutely everyone they follow because their feeds would be full. But if you make sure that every single time you do enter their feed, that is something valuable, something they remember, that has way more impact. Same thing about this, by the way, is choosing a strategy. Now, there's different marketing strategies from meme marketing to like paid ads that can be useful for some people. You have to like look at all the things that are available and pick one of those to do it right instead of doing everything and like hoping something sticks. As much as I'm like a big defender of trying different things to see what you like, if you have to like keep your marketing channel small, choose one strategy. Now, the two things that I do want to say that honestly are almost not avoidable, like they're like recommended, if not mandatory for everyone, is to have Steam as your main hub and Discord server as a closed community. Now, what does that mean? Steam is the public page, right? Steam has an option where you can link all the social medias on the site. Steam is where people look at the descriptions, where they look at trailers, where there might be a live stream playing. Please put as much time as you can into making your Steam page look nice, because if that doesn't look nice, people won't follow you anywhere else either. Same thing with Discord is like, it is nice to invest time there, but it is something where people that you already convinced, people you already converted are in there. So you don't have to do marketing in there anymore. The marketing happens outside and the community management happens inside. And because I can't show you those like all the lessons that I've learned, there's two different sites that people for some reason don't know about where you can read up on almost everything. Discord has an enormous backlog of how to manage a community, how to recruit volunteers, how to build up a server structure. And they have like endless material way before the times of AI, so it's handwritten, where you can just look it up on their website. And honestly, some of these things I still reference when I train volunteers. The other thing is the Steam page, the Steamworks backend, honestly, because there too is like descriptions of a good Steam page and a bad Steam page. And looking at that before you start writing something your own or think, okay, I can just like write a sentence there and add something later, and just look at these things and follow those guides, and you will already have more than like 80% of the indie devs I see. Sometimes it is as easy as that. And now we come back to the start early. using your community as a resource. There are people that want to play your game. There are people that enjoy your game. And there are other people that are also making games. There's an entire community of game devs that you could engage with. That's something that happens a lot in the Godot community, where other game devs are hyping each other up, and they're the first playtesters, and they like start following each other. Like having those initial numbers, those initial engagements will invite other people to join in. It's a lot harder for someone to enter like a room where no one is actually having fun. Like if you go into a party and everyone is just standing there like this, it's a lot harder for a new person to come in and like engage with them versus when everyone is already chatting. And that's the same idea, right? Like making sure that like you aren't just someone posting out into the void and then leaving, but instead you're actually engaging with other people, getting to know people, networking, who would have thought, and building those relationships. Another thing is also influencers. I've heard of many devs that like do cold outreach campaigns that no one ever picks up their keys, even if they send them out via email for free, or even if they use like those key mailers. It's because those influencers need to care about you. Like the inboxes, I think you saw one of mine earlier, they are overflowing constantly because they're public. So to make sure that these people actually want to play your game, what better can you do than to actually have a relationship with them? Like commenting on their posts, commenting when they stream your game, commenting. It will also invite other streamers to like, hey, this brand actually engages with me. This like game dev is actually there to do that more. So you can like delve into influencer marketing a lot easier than if you didn't do any of the community management. And the last thing is something I love personally. Let the players influence and support you. There's no need. Like there's things like fan art. There's things like very easy posts where it's like, we're going to this conference. Are you going to invite people to interact with you? Don't just post something where it's like, we have done this milestone. Please buy our game. You can just ask questions. You can like repost someone's fan art, or honestly with the plushie, we had a lot of fun. There were so many people that put it into the game where it's like, yes, amazing, I will repost that. And that just starts an engine on its own. And not using this, to me, always is such a waste, because most small games will have someone who's like at least happy to leave a review. You can screenshot that review and post it on the social media. Like there's so many easy ways to use content that you are given if you don't have the time to make content yourself. That is a resource that people overlook a lot of the time. Speaking of though, I did the same thing for this presentation. I asked someone like, hey, if this is my like agenda, what questions would you have afterwards? And one of the things that people asked for were common pitfalls. Something I personally didn't even think about, where it's like, okay, what are the things you can constantly, like very easily do wrong that I could warn you about so you don't do them? So I outsourced this, and this is the result. One of the things is not customizing trends. Now, like I said with the AI thing earlier, with the action figure thing, it's cool. It's a nice way to showcase yourself, but if you don't do anything with it, it will not stick around, right? Like there's an entire LinkedIn wall of action figures generated by AI of people with the title social media manager. Is anyone going to pick you out of the masses? Well, if I make it myself and in my colors with actual things that I like have on my desk, maybe I'll get that attention. And if not, at least I had something that like allowed people that already know me to talk to me, giving you a way to like talk to me later, for example. So like making sure that you don't just copy paste the trend, but do something that is unique to you, to your game, to your brand is going to be like the one thing for some reason people still don't do. And becoming memorable is important because there is such a flood of things, especially with all the bots, that you need to make sure that like whenever you cross that, like whenever you come up on someone's feed, they want to engage with you and they remember it for being you. Not just I saw another action figure, but I saw Nat because I saw that green thing. That reminded me of her. And like having that, so people come back and like when they see you again, remember you, that is very, very valuable. Now, another one of my favorites, honestly, ignoring comment sections. It is one of those things where even the biggest companies will hire those customer service people to reply to comments because no one wants to deal with the bot, right? I have a question, like how do I download the Godot engine or something? It's a lot easier for me to just be like, hey, here's a link. Thank you for engaging with our post. I'm rewarding you with the answer, even if it might seem tedious. But like those little engagements make people feel like they're actually interacting with other humans, and especially with games, that is very important. And seeing that you are engaging with someone will make other people more likely to engage, right? Like if you see a comment section that's just full of people replying, but the original poster doesn't do anything with it, Will you leave a comment? Not as likely. If you see that that person is rewarding you by replying with a GIF, it doesn't have to be much. It will make it more likely and you will get engagement over time. Also, another one in that regard is don't avoid the difficult questions. Like, when is the game coming out? I don't know. It is still a lot better to say I don't know than to not say anything. There's a big thing with communications where, like, if you don't say something, people will fill in the gaps themselves. And you'd rather have control of that and be like, hey, we are an indie dev team. We're doing this next to studying. We do not know. Here's a rough timeline. You can support development and make it faster by funding us. Like, you can always turn the conversation in your way as long as you reply. Not replying is the only thing that you can't fix afterwards. And a personal one that is like the reason for the moderation part. If you let backed actors, trolls, people that are very stubborn, people that just like games in a certain way and they want your game to be exactly what they want and nothing else, though, if those people are very loud, they will drive out everyone else that you might actually want in your community. Like the smaller ones are like, hey, I like your personal take on this game. I don't want another cookie cutter game like all the other ones. But you will lose them because they feel pressed out by all this negativity. You will be feeling down after that. And it's just important to make sure that like what people do I actually want to keep rather than trying to appeal to everyone. And the reason I put the Nazi bar problem on there is because in the worst way, if you invite bad people and like reward them, it will just end up only being those people. So yeah, we do press the ban button to come back to that, but it's to avoid that we only have these kinds of people. And speaking from personal experience, a moderator moderating will always make people angry. That is a thing, right? But you have to keep thinking about the people that are happy by you enacting their rules, to making sure that that's a safe space, making sure that like now they actually feel like they can contribute to your community rather than standing on the outsides and scared of those people that they don't interact with. You actually end up earning more than you lose. And I know that a lot of people are scared to like try to remove anything, to moderate anything, because they are afraid of losing out on engagement. But there's like, honestly, if you look at the numbers, most of the time engagement goes up. And all that negativity will also like take a toll on your mental health as a developer. So that's just something that I wanted to put up as like a common pitfall. Do not answer, do not engage, do not moderate people is normally like the worst way to deal with this. And there's this, right? It's life. Mistakes are gonna happen. You're dealing with people. Mistakes are gonna happen even more. Communication is never a clean thing. You're gonna figure it out by interacting with people and by being honest with them. And if you're constantly afraid of posting the wrong thing so you don't post at all, we're just circling back to the same problem that's like at the bottom line of all of these. So with all of that, the key takeaways. What is and isn't community management? I say it's a bridge to the communication between developers and players. Now you can replace those two actors with like company and users, but in the end of the day, you are that telephone. You are the one that is not only making sure that the communication flows, but also the one that is organizing that communication and making sure that the important parts are the ones highlighted at the end of it. How to become a community manager? Well, honestly, your background doesn't matter as much as your intent matters. Teach yourself new skills, learn how to set up a Discord server, use one of those free social media scheduling softwares and say you can now use it. That will always matter more in those applications than having a certain degree over another. And seeking opportunities to practice. It's one of those things where like, yeah, you could be volunteering on a server with an actual community manager who's like teaching you how to moderate and now you're learning new skills. But it could also be volunteering at a conference. Like that's what I did. I used to be a volunteer at DevCom and became a lead volunteer and suddenly I learned how to manage people. How to manage people is a thing that's very useful in my job now. And it's just something that came up naturally by just jumping into it, not being afraid, and interacting with other people that can teach you. And then the quick lessons for everyone. Typical, start early. There's never too early for marketing. And pick your battles. Make sure that like the things that you invest your time in are the ones that you are good at and the ones that actually will yield the results that you're looking for. And again, the community manager is saying this, but use the community as a resource. You're not just someone broadcasting advertisement. You have like an entire group of people that are so interested in your game, they want to talk to you. Make sure you use that. And speaking of resource, networking, choose whichever one you prefer. If you want to be professional and connect on LinkedIn, or if you'd rather just talk on Blue Sky, I don't mind. But make sure that whenever you meet someone, you connect with them, because you never know when you'll meet cross paths again. So that's normally what I would end on. And I hope I stayed within the time limits. See, there we go. But yeah, with that, I thank you for listening to all of this. I hope it gave everyone that had no idea what community management is a little bit of an entry, but also the ones that knew some tips from like someone who has been doing this for a while.